Hello, everybody. How you doing? Today we have a very special show. We have Angel Gotti's going to join me with my partner James Proctor, but we have Frankie Edgar. Yes, that Frankie Edgar, UFC champion, and known for his Gray Bernard triple that trio of fights that you had. And Frankie has fought nobody but the best. And I'm taking it, Frankie. You're retired now, right?
Yeah. Retired November of 22.
And then we have Kevin Interdonato here. And Kevin, I checked. You were in a lot of. I didn't realize you were on City on the Hill, one of my favorite shows. You were in The Sopranos. You've been in several. Give us a little details of exactly who you are, so we can tell people why we're doing this interview.
Sure. My name's Kevin Interdonato. Thanks for saying my name right. I appreciate it. And I just want to say something real quick. Frankie says he's retired until somebody pisses him off. I'm only going to hold that I'm getting to know Frankie better. I'm only going to hold that so far, man. I wouldn't put too much weight on that, man.
Yeah. If Conor McGregor said, Frankie, come fight, Frankie be like, okay, anywhere you want.
Hey, yeah, can't pass that up probably.
Yeah, I've been an actor for over 20 years. The bulk of my work has been independent film, done a bunch of TV and stuff, and I am obsessively always trying to find a high as an actor with the best role and the best project. I've been consistently frustrated with roles and where the productions usually end up, especially in independent film. You have no control over that. So several years I learned how to make films as well, started writing, started producing, and then Bastard Sons, I wrote it and I got so attached to it. I said, I think I got to direct this. So I jumped in, and somehow or another, we got picked up by Vertical Entertainment, which is one of the biggest distributors in Hollywood, and the movie's popping, and it's just been a crazy ride.
And
Wow.
Angel, is there anything that you would like to ask either one of
Um, well, I said before that it was nice to see Kevin smile because he didn't smile the whole movie. But it really is nice to see you smile. I loved the movie, and I don't like those kind of movies, but that movie I really did. I think it was the ending that did it for me.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of that.
Yeah, the ending did it for me.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I wouldn't tell anybody, but it was
yeah,
good.
please don't tell anyone there.
It was shocking.
Yeah. It's funny when you're writing the script, that was not in the first draft or the second draft or the third draft, but you keep digging and playing around with ideas in your head. You could be driving, playing with my kid, then all this stuff just kind of comes into my mind. And then I think that aspect popped into my head about a month before we were filming. Maybe a month and a half before, I sent an updated draft to everybody, and I said, I know how to put a cherry on this cake, and it just worked. So I'm glad.
Did.
Thanks.
It did. It really did.
And Kevin, Frankie, Kevin, how did you guys hook up? How did you meet? How long have you known each other? Why don't you guys tell us, Frankie, why don't you start telling us how you met Kevin and got into this?
Well, Kevin, we're both from Jersey, not too far apart from each other. Grew up similar ways, I'd say, but we got connected about a year before the project started. I actually do a podcast called Champ and a Tramp with Roger Matthews. We had Kevin on as a guest. Just talk about his film career and his time served over in the military. And then a couple weeks later, maybe a month later, he hit us up and asked us if we wanted to, do a small role in his film, his upcoming film that he has. And we both said yes. And then I think a couple weeks after that, he said, "Hey, there's a different role that opened up. Would you want to jump in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that's kind of how it all started. And I'm thankful for the opportunity from Kevin, because I had an absolute blast doing this film. I have a very little bit of experience in this industry. So to be able to jump in with these guys has been tremendous.
James, I'm sorry, Kevin, you want to add on to that?
No, Frankie pretty much summed it up. Yeah, we grew up close to each other, never knew each other. Might have seen each other at a bar here and there, back in Seaside, but our dads are both kind of contractors, know some of the same people, all that stuff. So yeah, we just kind of hit it off, and the movie is cast with very experienced actors, veterans that have been around for a long time, like Malik Whitfield. He's been that big movie, Five Heartbeats, and it's just so many big films and TV shows. And Al
Yes.
Sapienza, who was Mikey Palmise in The Sopranos, and then the complete opposite, people that never been on camera before yet. My dad's in the movie, my dad's buddies in the movie. My buddies I grew up with in Howler in the movies. Frankie never really acted before. Roger. So it's literally most of the cast in the support, almost all the supporting roles are non-actors. And I knew that was the only way to capture the realism of the piece. So with Frank, he's been in the spotlight for so long, for good reason. He's been on camera for a long time too. People don't realize that. Like for me, I get nervous in front of crowds or things. I can't imagine Frankie being on TV with millions of people watching and all the people in the crowd, and he's just completely comfortable in himself talking after a fight or even on his podcast or interviews. That means something to me, because there's a lot of actors, even though you train and whatnot, everyone has different paths of what they think an actor should be or their goals as an actor. The goal to me is to not act at all. So if you get someone that doesn't know how to act and they're just comfortable already, that and are just okay being themselves and not put on an act when someone says action, that was what I needed. And Frankie falls under that category. He's just a confident guy, and he's comfortable with himself, and he's got a great presence. I was like, this is going to work. And he looks good holding a baseball bat, doing his thing. So
Yeah, we don't want to give that away, but that was a fun part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Curious.
I'm sorry, James, is there anything you want to ask before Angel jumps in?
Yeah, just a couple of things about this. So one is like I said, this was a very good movie, great movie. And what was refreshing to me is seeing the writing, the quality of the story was great, and that's something that we're missing today, in my opinion. And it doesn't matter if it's independent or non-independent. We just don't see the quality of writing, and there's a lot of great actors out there, but to me, it's always the writing and the story that's most important, and that's what I thought that you definitely got right. And then you found actors and people to be able to play the parts appropriately. And so that's what was impressive to me. And then, obviously now the whole distribution model of movies is changed. And so
it's on its ear.
Yeah. So what's independent mean to people? So people need, I just wonder, you may explain that, because people don't, they hear independent, then there's the big studios, but what does that really mean to the consumer?
I'd love to explain that. I love talking business.
He's the smart one.
No. I don't like talking art too much. It's mostly because I don't like how it sounds and it comes out of other people's mouths. So I just keep my mouth shut about that stuff. It's personal, and it is what it is. But business, yeah. So before I get into that, James, great question. I'm blown away and surprised. And don't take this the wrong way, that anyone in Texas likes the movie. When you're writing or making something, you don't know who's going to respond.
See, I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker.
Brooklyn, right.
Yeah.
But even
Yonkers and Brooklyn, I grew up in.
There you go.
I'm as New York as you could be.
There you go. So it's a great feeling knowing that the movie translates regardless of the genre, regardless
exactly
of that. It's really good to know. So thanks, man. So here's what's up with independent film. Independent film has changed, and I'll make this as succinct as possible, guys. Independent film has been around for a long time. People don't realize it, but Clint Eastwood, Warren Beatty, these guys have been making independent films since the beginning. Although spaghetti westerns were indies. Yeah. Independent film means one thing. It means your movie is not financed and created by a studio. That's it. And since there's been a surge of independent films in more recent years, especially in the 90s, because it became easier to make a movie when digital cameras started coming out. So you don't need all this big money or big crew. So people started making movies like crazy. In the 90s, independent film actually had like a feel to it. It was very gritty. It's what I came up with when I started. That has since changed because independent film used to have a connotation, like, oh, it's an indie. You made the movie for $20 and a bag of chips, you know? But now independent films to date, I mean, they could be fun. They could be $100 million. So it's really just what's funded by the studio or created by the studio or completely independent. And nowadays, completely independent means the more of an entrepreneurial mind you have as a producer making the film puts you on a different tier than before because of the way the business has went. I made a film a few years back. It was called Bad Frank, and it popped. We actually shot it in Jersey. I was living in LA at the time. Tom Sizemore was in it. He was freaking incredible, man. My wife, and some other people. Ray Boom Boom Mancini is a friend of mine. He was in it. He jumped in, played my dad. So I knew when this movie was coming out, the times were changing because when it came out on Amazon, iTunes, and all that, they literally put the movie right between Transformers and something else, which were new releases at the time. So I'm like, holy shit, this is the world we live in now. I don't have to go to a big movie theater across the country because when people see it on the TV, no one knows the difference, studio to indie. It's just a movie. So with that, you have to hope that that movie is as good as what it's around. That's independent film. That's it.
And the streaming,
Yeah.
does it make it easier to get your movies out now with all the
Yes.
streaming services?
Yes, the difference is there's so many, there's 7,000, 8,000 movies made a year.
Yeah.
There's that many worldwide made a year. You'll only know about 100 of them, 150 that come out every year. That's how bad some movies are. And that's how tough it is to get them known. You know, there may be another 200, 300 movies that are like just outstanding film. Being in the business that I know about, because I'm connected to that independent world, that a common moviegoer would never know about. So when I was saying before, you have to have an entrepreneurial mind. You have to be the marketer. You have to be the producer. You have to be the casting director. You have to be everything and think as good as they do. And if you don't, you have to know enough to hire someone to fill that position. So we've been with Sons that, I don't know, man, something happened. It's kind of like lightning in a bottle. I wasn't expecting all this. So it's pretty, even the dog likes it. See, like everyone likes the movie, but it's been pretty wild.
Frankie,
You
I
know
want to
what
ask
I'd
Frankie,
like-
I'm sorry, I want to just ask Frankie one quick thing. Frankie, now let's face it, up here, you're the most well-known. I mean, you've been shouted out by Joe Rogan. You get shouted out by Joe Rogan, end of story. So when you got involved in this, did you consider yourself like, I'm the most known person in this movie?
No, not at all. The most inexperienced person in that movie. That's kind of how I post it. I'm not one to, stroke myself at all. So I kind of just think me and Kev are on the same par. If anything, I'm looking up to those guys. Those are the guys that are, in this industry, helping me out, showing me the ropes. So yeah, I had a white belt mentality going into this, if you know what I mean.
Sure. And James, you wanted to ask something?
No, it was a follow-up on the independent thing. One of the things that's fascinating to me was how you raise money, how you come up with the funding of it. And there was actually a crowd-sourcing way of doing this. There was a show called The Chosen. It's a series, and this was is a religious thing. But those guys is a guy named Dallas Jenkins. They raised millions of dollars for that production. Of course, it was a series and it's still on. It's not a movie. But what do you think of the way that some of these people are able to raise money through crowdsourcing? And is that something that maybe you did when you were coming up with this idea? Because obviously the financing aspect of it, it's not cheap to do a movie, even with technology. So how did you deal with that, and what's your thoughts on crowdsourcing?
Oh man, once you started talking, the wheels are just going. That's a big question. I'll try to answer it
Yeah.
as best I can. I did the crowdsourcing thing several years ago. I couldn't stand it.
Yep.
I'll never do it again.
Mm,
I don't like asking people for things.
yeah.
I just don't. Works for some people, not my bag, so be it. This was I come from a family construction business, small, blue collar, and I watched my dad through the years and worked with him through the years, and I know what it takes to have your own business. So every movie has its own LLC. Every movie essentially is a business. If you're going to start a business, you got to know how you're going to make money. I'm in a business of dreamers. I don't listen to that quote people say like follow your dreams. I think that's bullshit. I think you let your dreams inspire you, but if you follow your dreams and don't have a business sense, you're screwed. So you
Mm.
can follow them all the way to the bank when you're declaring bankruptcy. Um, for me, doing Bastard Sons, it was the first time that I was wearing a director hat. So I wasn't proven. I didn't know how I would do it, man. It was just kind of a shot in the dark. I never read a directing book. I never directed anything. I never read a writing book. So I bet on myself, and so did my wife. And by the way, Lee, my wife is Kathy Ryan on City on a Hill. I'll get back to that later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so for me, doing Bastard Sons, I didn't want to put anyone in a position to take a risk if I was not proven making a movie yet in that capacity. I produced, but I have not directed yet. So I took the risk. Just like someone's going to open up a pizza shop, and they never made pizza before, but they just love pizza, and they convince people that they're going to, make the best pie and make lots of money. They're going to take money from other people, or they're going to do it out of their own pocket. Well, this is a business too. So my wife and I gambled, bet on ourselves. We financed about 90% of it. One of my buddies I grew up with threw me a couple bucks. My old Army recruiter from the National Guard out of Tom's River threw me a couple bucks, and we got this movie made. And I wanted to gamble on myself first to prove that to myself, not to any naysayers, that I could do it. I could make a good film that people enjoy. And that's very, very important to me creatively, but also on the business side of thing. It's almost like a metaphor with these fucking the walls behind me. It's like I got these two sides that I gotta satisfy. So financially, yes, I need this movie for my family, for potential business and other films I now have lined up to show that I can make money on a movie and have a successful business plan, a business model. So we'll know soon, if that works out. But if it's
And what I like to say, Frankie, when you hear this, okay, so you're becoming a fighter, right? And you probably never realized you were going to become a famous fighter. And so Kevin's talking about this. Would you put it in the same grounds, whereas you're trying to become something, and then you become something, and now you're entering another phase of your life? I mean, uh, do you think this is going to be a tougher challenge for you than fighting was?
I mean, yeah, 100%. Fighting. I grew up fighting. I grew up wrestling. That's all I really know. This is definitely very foreign to me. I never was the artsy type of kid and stuff like that, but it's exciting. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see if anything can come from this. And maybe even if it's just the sequel, I'm all in.
Well, I was talking to Tommy Stiggs. He has a show on here, a very pleasant show, and he knows who you are because you were Tom's River. His son wrestled in Tom's River, and the minute I mentioned your name, he wasn't even thinking about you as a UFC fighter. He was thinking about you as that high school wrestler.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
I've been at it
and
for
then
a
he
minute.
was just yeah, he was just telling me, and I didn't realize that you had this successful of you were a very successful high school wrestler.
Yeah, that's kind of where it all started. Wrestling in high school, competing, with all these Jersey guys, and then I went to school in Pennsylvania for college. Came home, started working as a plumber, and started training as a fighter. And fighting took off, and that's kind of what led me to the UFC.
Frankie was like, "Fuck plumbing, man. I'm gonna go."
That's for sure.
And
Yeah, the hell of plumbing.
how many years have you been wrestling?
Well, I was been wrestling since I was 13, but I was in the
Oh,
UFC. I was in the
and
UFC.
I meant the UFC. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no, I was in the UFC from 2007 to 22, so 15 years.
Wow.
That's a long time.
which is
Wow.
a very, it is you do not hear about that. 15 years. Very few
Yeah.
fighters last 15 years. But not
Exactly.
only that, it's like I said, not only were you in the UFC for 15 years, every fight you had was against him. I mean, you fought Yari Rodriguez, and now he's a star, and and I forgot you fought Yari Rodriguez, and you didn't fight him in your prime.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little older, I was a little older, but yeah, that definitely not during my title run and stuff like that. Yeah, I fought three different weight classes too, so
Yeah.
I got to fight the best of the best in three different weight classes. Yeah, I put a lot into the sport, and it was an amazing experience. I got to live a movie, I really did. I got to live a movie. I used to grow up on Rocky movies and Kickboxer and Bloodsport, all this type of stuff, and I got to live in real life.
And I'm going to
You
ask you
know
a
what
question,
was the,
and then we'll get
sorry.
back to the movie. I want to ask you one more UFC question, because you know what? I got to be able to turn this into shorts.
Yeah, and I have a UFC as well, Lee.
Okay, no problem,
Yeah.
James. So here's my question about UFC. You fought the best of the best. Who gave you? Who is there anybody you feared getting in that ring with? And who do you think was the best fighter you ever fought?
I never feared anybody. I never went into a fight thinking I wasn't going to win. I didn't win them all, but I never walked into a fight thinking I was going to lose. It's tough to really say who was the best. I'll give you like top four. We'll say like BJ
Okay.
Penn. I beat him 3 times, but when I fought him, he was like unbeatable. He had an aura about him. So preparing for him was definitely a big mountain to climb. For the first time, and so I would say BJ Penn. Jose Aldo. I fought him twice. I never beat him. One of the craftiest dudes. I mean, one of our fights was a little controversial. Maybe could have went my way. And then I'll say Max Holloway. He was another really really good champion that I fought. And I guess you go Benson Henderson. I lost my title to him at 55. Again, controversial fights, but really good opponents.
Frankie, who had the best hands?
The best hands. I mean, I know Aldo, Max Holloway had really good hands. I think the hardest punch though was the hardest punch I've been hit was probably Maynard. Maynard hit me with the biggest shot.
Do you, after you go through a series of 3 fights with a guy like Maynard, do you like feel attached to him for? I mean, there's these series of fights where people have 2, 3 fights, wars. Do you feel attached to that person? Is there an attachment there that's going to always be there?
We'll be intertwined in the history books forever. So yeah, for sure. You share that much blood and sweat in a cage. You definitely share something, special. I see all these. I'm friendly with everybody I fought. I have no bad blood with nobody. I'll see these guys and we'll have a beer or whatnot. So yeah, you definitely share something with these guys when you go to war like that.
Okay, James, I'm sorry.
No, that's really good. And a couple of things to me that well, one question, one comment, but the comment one, I think one of the most impressive things is that there was I saw this as a record that you have the second longest total fight time in UFC history, almost 8 hours you know, in the ring, and I mean that's amazing to me. The endurance, the ability just to come back and continue to fight because people don't realize that you have a lot of people that their careers are 2 or 3 fights or five, and so what you've been able to do over a period of time is just impressive. And then I just wanted to ask about your martial arts. I know you did wrestling starting off, but I believe that you were also with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So when did you learn the martial arts? And because you actually, you achieved a lot there just in martial arts.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thank you for the nice words. But yeah, I did. I consider wrestling a martial art. So that was my first martial art, obviously at
Yes.
13 years old. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is such a big part of the UFC. Obviously, Royce Gracie, the guy that brought the UFC to the forefront, is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And I'm a third-degree black belt under Ricardo Almeida. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu pretty much since I started fighting. So that's just such a big part. And then I have a really good boxing coach, Mark Henry. I was the first guy he trained, and he's trained multiple champions since then. So yeah, I have a really good team around me. I have good Muay Thai coaches. That's what's great about the UFC. You have to You got to be good at, many different sports. You be very well-rounded, especially in today's game. That's how I think, I was able to last 15 years because I constantly kept working on my craft, constantly tried being well-rounded, didn't really get too complacent. You get complacent, you get left behind. So luckily I have a great team around me.
And Frank,
How-
I'm sorry, Angel, go.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask him how did your family feel about you doing this?
Well, when I
Because my
first-
nephew does this and I hate it. I hate it. I can't
Yeah,
even
well-
watch him.
My my mother and my wife, or fiance back then, they were definitely not too happy about it. I just graduated college and I was in the plumbing union. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And they knew I wasn't gonna stop, so they decided to support me. It took a little while, but once they realized that I was all in on it and they weren't gonna stop me, they supported me.
And did they watch your fights?
My wife watched all of them. My mother, she would go to the bathroom whenever I.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I go inside. I go inside and pray.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what my mother does.
And Frankie and Kevin, I would like to ask you both to tell us what your heritage is. If you're Italian, it doesn't matter, but I'd just like to get that because Angel said something very interesting. I told her that I mentioned your name to her, and she goes, "That's not an Italian name." So, Frankie.
I'm mostly Italian. Well, according to 23andMe, I'm 70% Italian. I used to think I was 20% German, but I'm not. I guess the rest I'm like little English, little Irish. I got a little Iranian in me too, but mostly Italian. My mother's side is from Italy. My mom was the first one born in America from that side of the family. And my father's side, my father was half Italian, but my stepfather, he's all Italian too. So I grew up in Italian. I think if you're from Jersey, you got a little bit of Italian no matter what.
Yeah.
How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I always knew I was, but it wasn't until I did the ancestries like the 23andMe, right, Frank? That's like
yeah, same stuff.
I did that. You have to spit in a little tube and send it in, and they said it was 94% Sicilian. All my roots, my great grandparents I'm like fourth generation over here, but my family kept it real. I'm the first one to marry a blonde hair, blue eyed girl. So I broke the mold. So I call my daughter my little Sicilian Viking.
Did you ever go to Sicily?
Yeah, too briefly though, Angel. I
Yeah,
can't
me
wait.
too. I went.
Can't wait. I felt at home there, oddly enough. We did a big tour, went from northern Italy all the way down. Northern Italy, everyone's kind of frail, I guess, thin and whatnot. As you go down, everyone looks like they're from North Jersey as you go down, and
the diets change. They start using the cream sauce.
Yeah.
People don't realize that Italy has two different, it's split down the middle. The diets are very vastly different. And
the Sicilians there, I was surprised. So I got this on my arm when I was there, and that's on the Sicilian flag. And
yes, it is. Wow.
The dude that my tattoo artist, he looked like a Viking. Big blonde beard, piercing blue eyes, full-blooded Sicilian. And he said, we're not Italian. He's like, we're not Italian. We're Sicilian. They're very proud of that.
Yes, they are.
But Kevin, did Frankie ever talk you to get in the ring with him and wrestle and toss around a little bit?
If he did, I won't.
Kevin's got some wrestling, some little boxing in his background too. Don't let him fool you.
Nah,
I always said you're going to get your butt kicked, you might as well get it kicked by someone that knows what they're doing.
When we did the movie, Frankie and I hit it off. We met, and then you get to know each other more. And there's a few times in the movie, directing them, I get passionate. You know what I mean? So I'm bopping around this and that, and I forget what it was, Frank, but I was holding Frankie and like, Frank, you're gonna turn like this and move here, and I kept saying, I was like, don't hit me, dude. I said, don't hit me. No, Frankie, think about it, man. These guys, Frankie's one of the toughest people in the world. Like, isn't that crazy?
Nice.
They train. This is what they do for a living. I don't do this for a living. So
if he got you in that neck lock that you got in the movie, you're going to sleep.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm going to sleep, man.
Now, let me ask you, what part did your father play?
Ah, um, my father and most of my buddies. It was the opening scene when I walked into the
Yes,
meeting with
okay.
Rome. All the guys in there.
Yes, yes.
Those are all of my boys I grew up with, and my dad. My dad was the bald guy that when everyone came up to greet me, and he didn't say anything, and I said, Dennis.
Yeah, okay, that's your dad?
His name's
Wow.
Dennis. Yeah, I said, Dad, just don't say nothing to me. Just look at me and walk away. He said, all right. Yeah. So that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Angel, you had another question you wanted to ask him about the name of the movie.
Yes, now is the name, the title of the movie that's going to stay the same?
Yeah, and when we dealt with the distributor, there's a lot of
Yeah, I know.
shit,
That's why I'm asking
you
that
know,
question.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of shit. You gotta
Yeah.
give and take, and when you put all of yourself into something, it's kind of hard to give. But to make a deal, you do what you got to do. So they've been good. One of the things I had the biggest hang up was it wasn't the negotiations, the money, and all that stuff. It was the title.
I
And they
knew
said,
it.
we need to reserve the right to change the title. And I was like, over my dead body, man. I said, what are you going to call it? Because they have the tendency to make things sellable rather than authentic.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
said, you can't change the title. But then they said, we have to reserve that right just in case when we go to platforms don't want to put that name up. So I had to give that right. I'm like, all right, I just kind of crossed my fingers and I said, well, I guess I gotta, I can't say no. What are we not going to be on a certain platform? So thankfully, people have a problem with bastards. Frank and I we're on Good Day New York last week, and the woman that interviewed us was a great gal, but someone told us she didn't want to say the name of the movie because she didn't want to say bastards. So everyone's got their own take on things. So it is what it is,
Did she
Did
not
Jim-
say it?
Did she say it, Frank?
I think she did. I think she said it.
She
Oh,
did?
she did. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
when
so.
Frankie walks in, she's probably like, yeah. I'm like, say it. Say it.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I asked Lee Cole. I said, I wonder if they're gonna have a problem with if they're gonna have to change the title of the movie.
Nah, so far so good.
Oh,
Foreign,
good.
foreign, they do whatever they want. But
A
for
lot of
the
people don't realize this, but Angel Gotti's family is in the entertainment business, and they have dealt with movie uh, uh, production and all that stuff. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad she's here, because Angel has a line. She goes, "I'm not about the mob," and I said, "Angel, you're Angel Gotti. It doesn't matter whether you're about the mob or not." As long
No,
as
but
you-
I'm not about it at all.
but that's what I
I
wanted
don't
to
even
ask-
like movies or shows about it. I don't watch them. But
What
this
show-
movie was different. This was this movie was different. This was violent. I don't really like violent movies either, but this one kept my interest, and then the ending is like, wow. I loved it. I have to say, I really loved it. I told
That's
Marla,
nice.
I said, Marla, watch it. It's shockingly, I really, really liked it.
Wow, thanks. That's really
She's
nice.
not- she's
we
not going
we
to say
screened
that.
we screened in a film festival. We got invited to screen at a film festival in Southern Jersey. I didn't promote it online. I just wanted, because it never went public yet. So Frankie was there, Roger, Roger Matthews does the podcast with Frank, who's also in the movie. He played Big because he's just big. And we all went there, and that was a mixed crowd. Remember, Frank? There was like people, men, women, all ages, and it conveyed well. And I was blown away that there was some older ladies there, and they loved it. And I was like, wow, because you make a movie thinking of your target audience, you don't think how it's going to convey. So I'm glad you liked it, Angel. That means a lot.
No, I really did. And I even told Lee Cole, I said, see, if I didn't like the movie, I wouldn't be here right now. I would have said to Lee Cole, listen, no, you do it. I'll pass on this one. But I really did like it. I liked it a lot.
I'm glad. That's cool. Thank
Awesome.
you.
James?
Yeah, so hopefully I'm not on mute. Am I?
No, you're not.
Okay,
No,
so
you're not.
yeah, the movie again that is really to me, it was the writing that did it. Great story and everything. And so when you went into it, was there the technicalities of it? Were you saying that this is going to be a certain length? And then also what are you doing about the distribution? I know Amazon Prime is going to show it or have it on their platform. I'm sure there's multiple platforms, and so will this eventually also get into a cinema as well? So I'm just kind of curious about the distribution model and how you also came up with the length of the movie, if that was because I thought it was the length was perfect for what you the story.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Thanks. To answer the distribution model, it's actually in theaters right now. It's in Brooklyn, Chicago, Minneapolis, Dallas, and Detroit for a week.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So when any film gets a theatrical release, because like we were talking about before, the model's changed. So they call it a limited theatrical. Back in the day, they would do a limited theatrical for 100 theaters or 50 or then 20. Now it's 5. So they just kind of do it to get the word out there. And when you go theatrical, it helps bump up on the VOD platforms a little bit. So Vertical gave us a bump. Regarding the length, it's funny. I wrote several screenplays before, and directing this one, most screenplays you look at it and rule of the business is it's a minute a page. Excuse me. So most screenplays are 90 pages or over or a little under. Sons was 65, and people were a little nervous about that. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous about it too, but I just had to, it's one of those moments where you feel so strongly about something. I said, I got to bet on myself. I know it's going to be a minute. I know it's going to be an hour and a half, because it could say on the page, Donnie Mack runs down the street. And it's one simple line. It reads that fast. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, Donnie's going to run down the street. We're going to get the camera low and pan up like this. He's going to trip and fall, pick up his gun, start running again, have the camera behind him, look back. So in my mind, that's like a minute and a half, whereas it reads literally in 5 seconds. So I wasn't concerned about that, because I wasn't trying to sell it. When people try to sell screenplays, you want to put it within the parameters of selling. But I was making it for what was in my head, and I just kind of knew it was going to be that long. We didn't cut anything. Every single thing we shot, we used. There was actually a little bit more dialogue in one scene that was cut because the scene was running long. And it was the phone call between Darius when he was in the alleyway and myself and the character Dobson in the car. And, in movies, you find out about a character by what other people say and how other people react about them. So specifically, the extra stuff in that conversation was about Donnie. And there was something about he was, how's Donnie been? And I think Darius said, oh, he's down in AC again. We haven't talked to him in a couple of days, and something wrong. Was just Donnie being Donnie. So right there from the beginning of the movie, it was like, all right, I want to set the tone for Donnie's character without him having to do anything. But the scene was just running long, just chiseled it down. But I'm pretty sure from what Frankie did on screen and how it conveyed, you can kind of tell he's a little wild. You know what I mean? He's that guy. He's got a bottle in the tub, smoking a cigarette. It's like, okay, we kind of pick up who he is without just throwing it in your face. And you hope that an audience picks up on things. And I think they have.
Yeah.
And Frank, I'm going to ask Frankie a question about social media. Frankie, when you started this, your career, basically it was in the beginning of social media, and now you're leaving your career and you're entering social media. I see that you have a podcast. You could tell us a little bit about that. But do you find that, a lot of people don't realize how difficult social media is when you come in here? So what is your plan for your show? And are you going to do a couple shows a week? Why don't you just take it from there?
Yeah, no, we've actually been doing the Champ and the Tramp for 4 years now. We have over 200 episodes. We're on pretty much everywhere podcasts are available. We're just me and my buddy Roger Matthews. He's from Jersey Shore fame. He's JWoww's ex-husband, and I've known him for a long time, even before his Jersey Shore fame. And we just I came up with the idea today. Let's do a podcast. You know, he comes from a different walk of life than myself, but you know, kind of have some good synergy. And yeah, we kind of just sit in my basement once a week, bullshit, talk about current events, talk shit on each other. You know, it's all fun. It's kind of really light, and yeah, you know, it's not the biggest money maker, I'd say, but hey, you know, it's a slow grow. It's a slow grow. But I have fun. It's in my basement, hanging out with my buddy. We have guests now. Obviously, it led to me to be into this in this movie. Led me meeting Kevin, some other good people. So all in all, it's something I enjoy doing, and you know, I'll keep doing it as long as it makes sense.
And I like to say to people that are watching this, I'm gonna add your link to this underneath here. Any information, including the movie links, and your trailers. I'll make sure that's all down there too. Angel will do it too, and James will help me do it. And I watched your. You come. You know what? You're presented as like when you're in the ring as like this shy fighter. You know, not loud, like Sean Strickland, loud. You know what I
Right.
mean? And we've entered a new phase. I mean, now fighters, now the social media is getting so bad that people are saying very nasty things to each other. I mean, we've seen this in the last month, two fighters in particular. And does that bother you that it's gotten so ugly, the UFC and nasty, or in MMA in general? It's when you start talking about people's fathers, mothers, and people being dead. I mean, and
Yeah.
it seems like it's going to get worse.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the Conor McGregor effect. He came in here, you know, outlandish, loud, you know, talking junk, but he, like I said, he had a little bit of charm to himself. He was funny. He was pretty witty. He didn't cross the line too many times, as of late, kind of has. But a lot of these fighters, like you said, are you know, attacking religion, attacking family. To me, that's off limits. That's how I always played it. And you know, if someone said that stuff to me, I'd probably smack them in their face in real life. You know, so that's why I don't talk that kind of stuff on social media. And I was the type of guy that just let my fighting do the talking. You know, I was raised. My old man said to me, "You always got to worry about the quiet guy. That's the guy you got to worry about." I always took that to
Yeah.
heart. So that's kind of how I went
Yep.
about my life. And
Just like YouTube.
yeah, for sure. You
YouTube
know,
tax family, dead family members, and mothers, daughters, sisters. They're disgusting.
yeah, it's like shock value, and that's not my
Hmm.
type of style.
And Kevin, why did you choose to make a movie about crime? I mean, are you fascinated with that life? Are you fascinated, say, with the mob genre, or watching the ID channel? I mean, what? Some people are just very fascinating with crime. Uh, a lot of people, it's kind of a fantasy. They can be something, but they never can be it. So so what do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, but but I'm fascinated with all human behavior. You know, a movie is supposed to depict a highlight in someone's life or just a high point in life. You know, it's funny, you know, you think about like videos that get more views on social media and YouTube. I think it's a very telling factor of how people view cinema because, you know, it could be, you could go see a fight on YouTube in the street or something, and it gets 25 million views. But if you see someone helping someone on the street, who gives a shit? People like drama, they like conflict. I'm obsessed with those moments of any kind, putting someone in a situation that they don't know, no one knows what's going to happen. I kind of, I don't know, I kind of like when that happens to me. I like getting shocked because like life gets mundane. So it's not so much crime, but I guess when I write, my mind just kind of goes there. You know, I grew up with tough guys. I grew up, you know, the underbelly of the construction world, you know, the scraping the bottom of the barrel. You know, my dad used to pick up dudes to go to work in the morning from their house with like needles in their arm, and who's an alcoholic, hardcore, drinking on the job. Like all these guys I grew up with in out of my life, like for years at a young age. And there was something about it I always gravitated to. So as an actor, I like playing roles like that. And as a writer, I don't even know if I'm a filmmaker yet. I only direct the one movie, so I don't even know what I am. But uh, I can't really look outside my own world writing a narrative because I see myself going through these obstacles. So that's why I don't know if I'm that good of a writer, because I know writers, and writers write every day and they write these worlds. The only world I write is the world that I know. I'm not going to go write a sci-fi or a fiction or post-apocalyptic or this romantic comedy. It's just not what I know. So organically, it just kind of comes out of me. And I think it kind of lends to, I don't know, yeah, maybe I'm going full circle here and talking myself in a bubble. Yeah, I like crime, Lee. Yeah,
I got to ask you that question because it's kind of funny because James and I talked about this uh, when Sammy Gravano's son punched me in the temple.
Oh my
My
God.
show doubled in size within a
Oh
couple
my
of weeks,
God.
and that's what happens. I mean, you
yeah.
just hit it right on the spot. People like to watch that kind of stuff. That
If,
proved it.
if Sammy or his son, off camera, you told them you were hard up for money and they give you $100 bill, who give a shit? Nobody. But the fact that there was some kind of conflict there, it's gravitating, you know? So putting people in, real people, say to Bastard Sons, for example, they're not, you want to call them gangsters? Go ahead. I didn't write gangster. They're just they're criminals. And this is the life they live. So to put any kind of person in a heightened circumstance, because Bastard Sons only takes place over 2 days, if you think about it. It's only 2 days. So to put any kind of person, whether they're a criminal or a postal worker, in a heightened circumstance and see what happens. It's bravery of an actor to want to go through that and experience it at the highest level without any inhibitions. And I think when people are going through that and not acting through it, willingly giving themselves to that moment, that's why people, like you were saying, like to see violence on YouTube or something like that, because you're witnessing it first time. And so is the actor when they're going through it on film. So to me, that's interesting,
And James, is there anything you want to say to that?
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with that 100%. And then also the thing is that when you look at getting a movie written, a screenplay written, a script written, and then also actually doing the filming. What is interesting to me is that everything's this. They talk about the 3-act structure, and so it
Yeah.
sounds like that the what is it, the setup, the confrontation, the resolution, and then they even talk about on the scripts you have to use a certain font, and it's half an inch this, and so all this stuff that just constrains you. But the thing is, with you being the writer and the director, maybe you didn't have to go through all that bullshit that a lot of people go through just to get their story put out there.
Yeah, that you kind of hit something there. When Frankie was starting out in his UFC career, right? I'm sure, Frank, you attest to this. Maybe I'm wrong, dude. Was there people that you fought earlier on that had more, let's just say, higher ranking than you, credentials than you? Were they second, third, fourth degree black belts in something? Were they state champions? Were they national Olympians? When you had your training, but their training on paper, not fighting you, but just training, they were farther along.
Yeah, more accolades. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So here's the thing. Frankie went in there and fucked them up. Right. So with me, I was fortunate enough in my career to have a lot of lead roles. So when you play in a lead in a movie, it's different than playing a main supporting or a supporting, because you look at the script as an arc, because everything revolves around you. It sounds so selfish. Please don't think that that's what I'm saying.
No,
It's not
no,
that.
but it's just
But they're called
quality of it.
yeah, they're called supporting characters because ultimately their characters support your journey from beginning to end. So playing leads, through the years, I kind of understand it innately now, how to tell that journey. There's things I look for when I see this world on paper and how to plan it out. It's like a timeline. So I never read a writing book. I never read a directing book. All I know is how to tell a story. So that's one of the reasons why too, I was going to invest and bet on myself for Sons because I didn't know if this was work. There was no 1, 2, 3 act. There was no structure. I just knew at this time in the story, something's got to come here to make the audience go, what the fuck is happening right now? And that's got to happen early on because as an actor, I know to put that into my work early on in the story, playing a lead.
Yes.
To bring the audience in. So I also played with the concept of, and look, there's nothing wrong with reading books and knowing this inside and out, but if you know it, you know it, and Frankie early on in his career was going against guys that were 6-degree black belts and this and that. The bottom line is Frankie knew how to whip people's ass, and he did. And then, yes, he climbed and got ranking as well, but there was just, that's what he was built for. He was built to do that. And I feel like I was kind of built for playing, telling a character's journey, and, it felt right to make the choice to direct it. So at the end of the movie, my big thing was I wanted to kind of dingle the carrot. Now, I didn't know if this was going to work. I didn't know if people were going to walk away from that movie and like Vincent. What you do is.
I liked Vincent.
Thank you, Angel. I remember.
I did too. I thought it was.
I liked Vincent a lot.
Thanks.
That's pretty sick.
I played with it in this movie, Bad Frank, years ago. Tom Sizemore is so incredible in that movie, guys. You ever want to see him? Like.
What is it called? Bad Frankie?
Bad Frank, yeah.
Okay, Bad
ironic,
Frank.
right? That's ironic. Bad Frank Edgar. It'll be the sequel. So he was a bad guy. He was a violent bad guy. I'm not going to give away any of the movie, but ultimately he was such a monster. Playing the lead in that, because I rewrote the script, but playing the lead in it, I had to think about the vulnerability, because ultimately. I was looking at the story and I'm like, are people going to like this guy? Are they going to want to keep watching the movie to the end to see what happens? And I remember at that time doing research on Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, my character was not that. No. But I remember something that triggered me. I saw an interview with Jeffrey Dahmer one time with his mom and dad, right? And this is where, my life lessons as an artist, playing as an actor and then a writer. I remember his dad on a podium after all that shit was going on. And he was not sticking up for his son in any way, shape, or form. He was, a lot of stuff was unbeknownst to them. They were completely shocked. They don't stand behind him. They want nothing to do with this and that. And the very end of that interview, the very fucking end, he goes just like this. He said, but he's still my son and I love him.
I knew you were going to say that.
And when I saw that, a fucking light bulb went off, because people go for the vulnerability. They go for the love. So with Vincent, if you think about, if you look at it if you look at the movie with no dialogue or no music or no sound, you see, and what's going on, you're like, he's a bad man. It's the first line of dialogue in the voiceover of the movie. The movie opens up, Vincent says, I'm telling the audience, I'm not a good man. I'm telling you straight up. But when he starts talking about how he was raised by his dad, people's heartstrings get pulled a little bit.
Yeah.
When he gets double crossed by his own soon to be wife, like all this stuff, like people will forgive the bad things if they hang on and associate with the good things. So I walked a fine line at the end of that movie with that last scene, Angel, like you were saying.
Yes.
I'm like, after this, will people be like, oh, fuck this guy? Or, well,
Yeah, exactly.
I thought the latter, because you could actually, what I liked is, I'm kind of into intellectual type stuff, but it makes you think. So I started thinking about it, afterwards. It lingered with me for a while after I watched it, and it allowed me to reflect. And so I thought you did a great job on that.
Oh man, thanks. Thank you for saying that. But what I really love is the fact that your work reaches someone to the point where they're actually thinking about it. So thanks so much, man. That's
exactly.
But also what comes across is the whole movie is your sadness, the sadness over your dad.
Yeah.
You feel your sadness. Like you're sad, you're mad, but you're missing your dad.
And key moments that you put in the movie. Key moments. You had me. I'm going to tell you when you had me at the movie. It was the stare. I'm not going to say whose stare, but it was the stare. At that moment, you knew something was up, but you had to think about it. And you probably know what I'm talking about, Kevin. And because you dropped hints along the way.
Yeah.
It was like I kind of said to James, it was like the mob meets Alfred Hitchcock. You know, it's like you did put those hints in there, and
Planting
people
seeds.
that just want to watch people running around shooting each other up, they're not going to pick up the hints. A real movie watcher, they're going to pick up the hints and they're going to enjoy the hints. And but Frankie, besides that, one other thing, why did you pick Frankie to do that very violent scene, if you know what I mean?
I needed to, well, one, I know Frankie would want to do it. But
I closed my eyes at that part.
So the story of the Bastard Sons is much bigger than the movie that you just watched. People, it's been such a warming thing hearing, like, is there going to be a sequel? Some people, I've heard that from so many people, and then some people have even said this should be a series, and yeah, it could be. I had to plant seeds right now in everybody. So there is this, there was one thing I had in my mind when I was writing the script, and a lot of creative stuff goes on from writing to getting ready, directing, producing, all that stuff. But this one thing I was so excited about, and that was the scene with Frankie and the Louisville Slugger. What was important to me was not so much that, it was, but it was the reaction of everyone watching. And then at a later scene with, I'll just say, with my girlfriend, that was on my mind from day one when I was writing as well. Everyone's individual reaction is different. And it's different because that is a telling tale without smashing anyone in the face of it, that if and when there is a sequel, their response to that scene is what opens the door up to how they have reacted to that in the sequel. Because the sequel, if we do, it takes place 3 years later. You can see everyone's
sequel, and if you do that sequel, though, you're going to bring that character to a different level. I mean, a level you can never no longer say that character is good. You're going to have to take that in a whole different direction. Do you see that, or?
Different direction. Well, I don't want to give too much. I really can't give anything away, but
yeah, I wouldn't.
But I can say that the sequel is I need a lot more money to do it the way I want, without sacrificing my vision. It has to be a much longer movie. But given the response to this one, I'm not scared to cross the 2-hour mark with the sequel. I'm not scared to do that now. But the sequel scares me. To be honest, not the weight of making the movie production wise. It scares me because, and that's a good place to be as an artist. You know, it's uncharted waters. So I'm not afraid to take that next step. But what my character will go through as an actor, I'm a little scared to ask actors to go through certain things. You know what I mean? But they're gonna have to. Really live that out. You know, when you're living out a part, some of the best memories I have as an actor in the business are movies that you guys will never see. The movies never got finished. They did get finished and they got the worst distribution release ever. They lost financing halfway through. But moments that I've had as an actor, moments are like a moment when you see your child take its first step. And those are the moments of fulfillment that I try to have for myself, whether I get hired as an actor or I'm creating my own thing. So I strive for those moments. And as a storyteller or director, I'm going to ask, and I need the other actors to go have those moments too. And they're not always the most fun things to go through. Sometimes shit sticks with you for a couple of days, you know, where your mind has to go and what goes through you. So the sequel, needless to say, is going to, if you thought the first one had a hook, man,
I'm looking forward to that.
I told Frankie the other day in the car, and he was getting goosebumps, right, Frankie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It's gotta happen.
Yeah, so time will tell, man. I'm directing another movie in October in Chicago called Dirty Hands, but it'll be a little bit to get ready for the sequel. I want to make sure that I'm ready. So it's a lot of prep, a lot of time. The movie will be bigger, there'll be more characters, and yeah, it'll be pretty wild.
What made you go from LA to back to Jersey?
LA sucks, Angel.
I know, right? I know.
I don't know how else to say it. Like visiting is cool, but
Yeah.
I left everything over here to go to LA, like everyone else. I'm not,
Yeah.
I sold my cars, sold my shirts, sold everything to get money to go out. And I left my dad's business. And I was like, by hook or by crook, I'm gonna figure this out. So the first year I had out there, I hit and I started booking a lot of work and TV and I was like, wow, this is great. But coming from a family business, it's not 8 hours a day. And even though I was working as an actor consistently, that doesn't mean you're working every day. That just means you're working enough as an actor to just about pay the rent and some other bills.
Right.
But I had so much time on my hands, and I'm like, I'm going to learn this business inside and out. So I started learning how to produce a film with a smaller budget business model to not lose any quality. So the investors have more of a chance. You're basically mitigating the risk, have more of a chance to make money than not. Because ultimately, not to get off topic, if you make two movies and you make the same movie, if Lee makes The Bastard Sons, he does it for $1 million. If I make Bastard Sons, I do it for a lot less. At the end of the day, we both make the same movie. It's only going to sell for X amount of dollars.
Right.
If I want investors to come into my world, I'm going to say, look, I can make it for this much. If it's going to make $1 million, Lee over there is going to break even. But if you come with me, at least I know I can put money in your pocket and make it an actual investment and not just be like dollar in a dream and be like, the risks of being an investor. I can't stand when people say that shit. So I want people to make money too. It makes me feel good, So I think I went a little off topic there.
Oh, that's fine.
No, that was great.
Jay, we're gonna wind this down. So I'm gonna say, James, why don't you ask your final question first, then Angel, and then I'm gonna ask my final question, and we'll close it out. How's that, guys?
Yeah, that sounds good.
James, why don't you start?
Yeah, I don't really have a question per se. I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, both of you. For me, it's just fascinating the business side of it. I have an MBA, so that's kind of my background is business. But I've never been in the film industry, so it's just interesting to me, to see what you've been able to succeed, and so through it's not easy, and for me, it was refreshing to see a actual movie of quality, and what I've also noticed is we see all these documentaries and it's getting stale with documentaries, and because of 2020 and COVID, all that stuff, there's a lot of documentaries made, and so it's nice to actually see a movie of quality with good acting, good story, and everything. So I just commend you, and I know it's going to do very well, and I can't wait for the sequel.
Wow, thanks, man.
Yeah,
That's really
thanks so much.
Yeah, I commend you guys.
CGI. No CGI. I mean, it takes
no CGI. No.
Yeah.
It goes back to
are no old actors that are at the very end of their strings, and when you watch a movie, it's like, oh, I recognize him. I think that's one of the issues too, because these movies being made nowadays, and they're putting people in them just because of who they are.
You remember Bruce Willis, the way they did that to him? That was just a shame to put him in where he wasn't able to act.
Yeah, they just had massive like oak tag size cue cards behind the camera, like one line at a time, so you could just read it. They just really hoard him out.
Yes, they did.
Disgusted me.
Yeah, it kind of was what it was, man. But thanks, James, and same to you and Lee and Angel too. Podcast is a business, and I commend you guys, and Frankie's doing it too for doing your thing. So I appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to say this.
sorry.
I very rarely share anything that we do on YouTube on all my social media platforms, but this is definitely going on all of them. And and I have to say this too. I was a huge fan of Boom Boom Mancini's.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy.
A huge fan of his.
You hear that, Boom Boom? She wants, she's trying to.
No, you know, I'm friends with Vinny Paz, the Tasmanian devil, and he said that Boom Boom is a really nice man.
He
Really
is.
nice.
He is.
Yes.
Yeah, he is, man. It's funny, man. Frankie and Boom Boom have a lot of similarities, like in the sport, the respect they have and everything, you know? Yeah,
And
it's
Frankie,
cool.
do you know him?
I got to speak. You know, it's kind of funny. I read his book when his book came out, and I met someone that knew him, and he hooked me up with him, and we ended up talking on the phone. So yeah, I was
That's
a big fan of
nice.
Boom Boom for sure.
Here's
Nice.
my final
I
question.
wish you all the luck in the world with this movie.
Thanks.
Really,
Thanks so
with
much, Angel.
everything that you do. You both of you were such nice men. Really, really nice men. And I'm going to
Appreciate
share
that.
this everywhere. And I did
What-
text my nephew and say something about Frankie Edgar, and he's
Oh.
like, nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Angel. I really appreciate that. That's really
Yeah,
nice.
tell your nephew to drop what's his face and fight Frankie instead.
I see he's got the Mayweather fight going. And stuff.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got
he
that
does.
coming
Doing all
Super
right
Bowl
for himself.
weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my
Super
final
Bowl
question.
weekend.
1 year from now, if I brought you guys back to this show, where do you want to be?
1 year from now, you're gonna probably have to deal with Frankie's manager. He's gonna get big sunglasses
Yeah.
like this.
I don't know.
You
Never
know,
happened. Never
talk to my
happened.
manager. I don't know. Go ahead, Frank. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm hoping, you know, I'm novice to this movie business, but I'm hoping we're well on our way into doing part 2. You know, I think Kevin's got a really good vision, and I'm glad I get to be a part of it.
So Kevin gave you the bug.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
You got the acting
You know,
bug.
I think they spoiled me though. I don't know if everybody's gonna think that everybody on the set that was involved with this movie was so helpful and so gracious with, you know, their tips and just tell me how things go. So again, I don't know. It's gonna be tough to match that crew.
That's right. That's your first indie, man. I mean, indies. There's a thing about indies. It's a small family, and you can ask Frank his first time around. Like, he still keeps in touch with people, you know, text, Instagram stuff, and you have like these small families. It was a small crew. We only had like 8 people on crew. That's it. You know, normally you go to a film set, there's 30, 40, 50 people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it's like, you know, I just got a really small team of warriors in New Jersey that I took a lot of time to curate and meet, and they're largely responsible for this as well. Especially, well, I mean, I got to throw some names out there, Lee, if some real quick.
Oh, go for it. Go for
I
it.
also don't want to discredit anyone if I forget someone's name. I hate doing that. But Dobson, the character of Dobson, was played by one of my best friends, Joe Cernio. And he also produced, and almost all the locations in the movie were through him. He did all that legwork. We got authentic locations, so the movie looked a lot bigger than what our budget was. And Joe Manella, the camera guy, he did everything himself. There was no camera team. He literally held the camera, lit everything himself. Mike Compitelli, Ray Llewellyn was our makeup girl. She did all the special effects on the guy's face and stuff. And
That was amazing.
oh, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
And she did the whole movie with a broken hand too. I mean,
Wow.
incredible. So Jeff Stewart, right-hand man, he was producer. There's a lot of people involved. The editor, Nick Larabure, was incredible. Glenn Rodriguez, who essentially wrote this another script 15 years ago. Did I tell you guys that story? Do you know about that?
No.
Oh, The Bastard Sons was derived from a script written by a 17-year-old kid. And I auditioned when I was living in Jersey. Then I moved to LA and came back. But I auditioned for this movie in 2007 or 8 down in Atlantic City area. And this kid gave me the part. And then he's like, hey, man, I got no money. So we'll make it when I get it. I said, all right. So we kept in touch. I moved to LA. He moved to LA. We worked together on a couple of short films. Come back here, stayed in touch. And then when COVID hit, there was no way I was just going to like not work. So I started writing. And I ended up writing 3 scripts in like 6 months. And the first one was Bastard Sons. So I reached out to Glenn Rodriguez and I said, remember that script you wrote years ago? He's like, yeah. I said, well, let's open it up. So we opened it up. And look, it was written by a 17-year-old. It was about 5 dudes that grew up together. There was a girlfriend involved. They did the petty stick-up crimes, and then the girlfriend was like, you know, giving it to the one guy. So it was like that. It wasn't written for men. So, but the idea of these 5 guys that grew up together, that's where it all started. So I took a page 1 rewrite, put the idea of them being bastards in a crime family, and then we just went from there. So that's how
Wow.
Bastard Son started, like 15 years ago, really.
Wow.
Amazing.
I want to ask you one question too. Where was the cabin filmed? What area is that?
That was in Lake Ariel in the Poconos.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Right up there
Okay.
by Marla. Angel's partner, Marla, is from the Poconos.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
she
shot a
lives
lot
in the
around home.
Poconos.
Yeah.
shot a lot in the Poconos. Yeah, and then the Red Rose Bakery in Tom's River, Freehold Towing. Those guys are great, right, Frank? They had a big forklift in the back. They were building a set for us with a forklift and moving all these cars. And that red car that came out,
Yeah.
that character a guy was sitting in, that was on their lot. So they filled the tires
Wow.
up, shined it up. The car was dead, and they just planted it. So the guy that played Guy, Lee, you might be interested in this. His name's Chuck McLean. He's a friend of mine. He is the creator of City on a Hill.
Oh, is he?
He's
Wow.
he's a character and a half. He's a
That's a
funny
great series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he created it. He cast Amanda. I met him. I ended up being on City on a Hill. Chuck's a character and a half. He's funny as hell. He's one of Hollywood's biggest writers, and this is his first acting role. He played Guy.
And you got him in. Right. Gentlemen, I like to say, Kevin, thank you so much for coming here. And I'm gonna, Angel and I, we're gonna do some, I'll get a hold of you about other stuff we're still filming. I don't want to talk about it right now, but
Okay.
about Angel wants to interview you.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
And
Thank you.
and Frankie, I know you probably got a very busy schedule, and thank you so much. I watched you since the beginning of time.
I don't
you
want to
know.
bother Kevin. We just did a whole full interview with him.
Angel, we're still taping.
I don't want to bother
Angel and
him.
I talk every day. We fight like we're married.
I don't
okay?
want to bother him.
Okay. Put your robe back on and go over and go make me some coffee. Okay.
Excuse me.
I always wanted to tell John Gotti's daughter, go get me some coffee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's an honor, Frankie. It means a lot to me. You know, if I'm going to speak to 10 UFC fighters, you would be in that list.
Thank you for that.
And it's really much appreciated. Gentlemen, with that, I'm going to end the recording. If you want to hang out for 1 minute, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
guys.
Thank you.
It was a
And
pleasure,
people, I'm going to
an
have everything.
absolute pleasure.
All the information is going to be underneath this video on everything. I'm going to put a bunch of links under here for Frankie, for Kevin, and even for Angel.